Okay, here we are. Singapore Grand Prix F1 2025 free practice one. So what are we expecting for free practice? Obviously, this is your F1 news today, and your F1 news is all about the Singapore Grand Prix. So I'm quite excited to see a couple of things today. I'm quite excited to see what Ferrari's going to turn up. Although in Baku, we saw a pretty decent Ferrari, didn't we, in free practice 1 and free practice 2. We saw Lewis Hamilton, fastest car in FP2. Didn't really translate to race pace or qualifying pace. But yeah, free FP1 does give us an indication of who's looking good. Now, the thing about Red Bull, we saw that amazing upgrade, the floor upgrade, which came in Monza, which has really transformed the balance of that car. Well, guess what? They brought another bloody upgrade. They're the only team on the grid to do it. So Ferrari, no more upgrades. Mercedes, no more upgrades. Red Bull have brought a higher downforce redesigned front wing for Max Verstappen, because he loves that. He loves a positive front end. So he's got even more downforce on the front end now. I'm not sure what that would do for Yuki Tsunoda, though, because anyone who tries to drive a car setup that Max likes, the car's pretty much undrivable for every other driver. But Red Bull have brought a new upgrade. They have brought a new front wing with more downforce, redesigned for Max. So this practice session, we might see, well, we won't, because, you know, Red Bull don't do that, or Max doesn't do that. We don't get to see the best of that car until qualifying, because Max is the king of sandbagging, isn't he? He just sort of sandbags FP1, FP2, FP3, and then right at the end of qualifying pops in a pole lap. That's Max Verstappen. But we're just really, FP1's quite a fun way just to see who's, if there is any improvements, but there's not a lot of people that have brought upgrades. The only upgrade to this Grand Prix is Red Bull's new higher downforce front wing. And it is remarkable, really, that Red Bull are still developing that car, because no one else on the grid is developing their 25 car. All eyes are on 26. But maybe it's because now Max has got a sniff of a driver's championship. The car is so much better. Now they've brought the new floor, which they brought in Monza. So maybe, you know, maybe Red Bull go, do you know what? We'll put some resources into Max's little title charge. And if anybody can bring that movie ending where Max Verstappen can gain 69 points from Oscar Piastri in the next 7 races, he's the only man who can do it. So, yeah, we will be watching this together. Got my coffee. And I'll try and keep you up to date on what is happening. But I'm sure you're watching the same thing I'm watching. Lewis Hamilton looking like he's going to be one of the first out. I wonder how he's feeling. Obviously, difficult weekend for Lewis. The sad news of Roscoe passing away is his furry companion for the last 10 years. Went through the good times with him. It must have been this must be a difficult weekend for him. And hopefully he can channel all that emotion into focus so we can try and have a reasonable Grand Prix weekend. I mean, if any of you have lost a pet, it's losing a family member, and it's a horrible thing for anybody to have to go through. I've been through it. I'm sure you've been through it. Yeah, so rooting for Lewis this weekend. Rooting for Lewis. Maybe they'll reduce his press commitment so we can just try and focus on that bag of spanners Ferrari and try and get a performance out of it. Well, we'll get early indications, won't we? FP1. We'll get early indications of which cars are quick at this circuit. I'm just really keen to see what that Red Bull looks like with the new front wing that they've brought. Higher downforce front end. and see, because what they don't want to do is compromise the balance that seems to have been brought to that car from the floor upgrade in Monza. But we're going to see. But FP1 underway. Join me for the next hour while we can get an early indication of who's looking like they're going to be quick. So we've got a racing ball. I think Hadjar's straight out on track. Also, get in the chat. You can ask me anything. We can chat with each other about what's going on, what we're watching. We can talk about Christian Horner's latest news. We can talk about the Red Bull approach to Alexander Albon. It's been confirmed again today. And you know what? It was the Dark Lord himself, Helmut Marko, trying to build those bridges. He's been saying in the press that he did not give Alexander Albon enough support when he was at Red Bull in 2020. And what else is key news today is that Helmut Marko has also said that he decides the driver lineups, not Laurent Mekies, which makes sense because Helmut Marko is now the sole director of Red Bull Racing. So he is the Svengali figure running both of those teams. We knew it was going to happen as soon as he got rid of Horner out of the way. You know, it was only Helmut Marko who got most of the benefit. But how are the McLarens going to bounce back from an awful weekend in Baku? Well, they're out on track now. Oscar Piastri's out. Obviously crashed in qualifying and crashed in the opening lap in Baku in Azerbaijan. Not a weekend McLaren would like to remember. Feeling the track. FP1 really is just trying to find some of the limits, tweaking the setups of the cars. But the good thing about these McLaren cars is that it's very, very kind on tyres. They're just brilliant the way the tyre wear in the McLaren is best on the grid. Yeah, I mean, it's a higher downforce track here at Singapore than what we've seen at Monza and what we've seen at Baku. So it's going to be a good... That's obviously why Red Bull, bringing that redesigned front wing, that new upgrade for this track, it's to try and compensate for the fact it's a higher downforce track. And like Max said, if the Red Bull is competitive here and he wins, then game on for the championship. Game on. Yeah, I mean, even the constructors, it's all to play for, isn't it? Because Mercedes are currently second in the constructors with 290 points, and Red Bull are fourth with 272 points. So there's only 18 points between Red Bull Racing in fourth and Mercedes in second. Ferrari, by the way, split both of them with 272 points. So really, those three constructors fighting it out for second place. McLaren will probably win the constructors in Singapore. But that's no surprise, is it, when they're over 300 points ahead? Cracking season for McLaren. But the Drivers' Championship, there's still drama to be had. So Piastri's gone quickest in the second sector. Ocon's gone quickest in this free practice one. Lawson second. Hadjar's gone quicker again. Again, what we're looking for in free practice one, it's all about getting the car set up. It's more of a shakedown than anything else. We might see some odd results, quick laps from people like in the Haas, Ocon. But free practice one really is where we get an indication of if there's any surprise results. Are we going to see a quick Aston Martin, for instance? Have they brought a good setup to Singapore? You know, we might get some indications of that. Hamilton's gone second fastest. Verstappen's gone first fastest. Piastri's third. Sainz fourth. Sainz is going to be an interesting one this weekend because Sainz obviously had his best result of the year. Qualified P2 in Baku in a Williams and finished P3, his first podium in a Williams. Sainz actually looks in his Grand Prix sort of interviews on media day, he looks pretty positive. He's getting. I can tell he's that result in Baku has done him the world of good, and obviously done the team the world of good, because you got to remember Alexander Albon really has been taking Carlos Sainz to school this year, even though Carlos Sainz has had some really bad luck. You know, he's had mechanical failures and etc. etc. But Alexander Albon still scored 70 points, and Carlos Sainz went into Baku on I think 16 points. But after that result, we've got Carlos Sainz now up to 30. Let's see what he's got now. Carlos Sainz is up to 31 points. So narrowing the gap between him and his teammate. But still, Alexander Albon really has taken him to school this year. Oh. The Williams is on fire. The Williams car. And that's Albon's car. Number 23. So Alexander Albon's car in FP1 is on fire. Didn't even make it out of the pit line. And after Alexander Albon's terrible performance in Baku, where he put it in the wall in qualifying. Wow. Yeah, that Williams is literally on fire. Alexander Albon's got out of the car. Will we see it back out of FP1? I don't know. Not what Albon needs at the start of this race weekend after his Baku performance. They're showing us the radio communications between Albon and his engineer, and it was simply fire. No shit, Sherlock. It's looking like is it the hybrid? It's the brake hybrid system, it looks like. Where the problem is. So Albon's out the car. Verstappen still setting the pace, P1. Fastest again, Sector 1. Thing is with Verstappen, I don't even think he's pushing. He's not pushing an FP1. Effortlessly P1, I'd say, Verstappen at the moment. Hadjar popping in a 1:34.3. 1.1 seconds quicker than Verstappen's quickest lap so far, but it's a long way to go. You know, Verstappen's now gone fastest in the first sector, the second sector. We're just going to see times dropping like Bonnie Blues knickers. I don't know if I can say that. Yeah, Hadjar. I think Hadjar's been brilliant this season. What do you think? He's had a brilliant season. Best of the rookies. He'll be disappointed with his Baku performance because Liam Lawson out-qualified him, put the car on P3 in qualifying, finished P5. Hadjar finished down in P10. So I think Hadjar wants to reassert himself as that quickest driver out of the two of them in the Racing Bulls. So I expect an uptick in Hadjar's performance this weekend, sorry. Armed with my coffee. What about you? I'm curious, with it being a Friday, are you watching this at work? Have you got it on it? Have you got it on a play? You just got this playing on your monitor. A little window with the Grand Prix FP1, a little window with this, with the F1 Grandstand. I'm here for it. Yeah, they're confirming the reason why the Williams car is on fire It is the regen system, the hybrid system, which works through the brake and exhaust gases, and that's what set the car on fire. Which is why we shouldn't have electrification anyway in Formula One. Get rid of it. We don't want it. We don't want your 50% electrification, but we're stuck with it now for the next 5 years. But the general consensus is that they will be going back to V8s with sustainable fuels and ditching the hybrid systems. I'm here for it. We'll have to wait till 2030 though, or 2031, which is a bit annoying. So if we look at it, for the next 5 years, we are stuck with the 50% electrification, 50% internal combustion engine. Boo, 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 FIA. Even the drivers don't want it. Charles Leclerc, who has been on the simulator at Ferrari and driving the 26 car, he publicly came out and said, I hate it. And he's not the only one. None of these drivers are really keen about the 26 cars, to be honest. None of them are like getting excited about it. They all say in the simulator the car's a bag of spanners. Nobody wants it. And as fans, we don't really want it either. Well, there we go. I might be surprised. I'm open to being completely surprised. The racing being amazing. The narrower cars being better. The narrower tyres being better. The removal of like the ground effect era, so the cars are now more reliant on suspension and mechanics. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to be great. I hope so. I do hope so. Don't be shy, get in the chat if you're watching FP1. Oh, Carlos Sainz has put in the quickest lap. 47 minutes left. Norris, 100th behind Sainz. Hadjar, a 10th and a half behind Norris. Sorry, behind Sainz. Piastri's gone quickest now, 1:33. The times are dropping. The times are definitely coming down. We're going to see that throughout FP1, FP2, FP3. FP2 will normally see a bit more of a push from the drivers where they're trying to really try and find the limits of the car. FP1 really is just really a shakedown of the car they've brought to the track. And it's also an opportunity, we haven't got this today, but it's also an opportunity for the rookie driver program, the reserve driver program, for them to take part in FP1 and get some much needed super license points. But we don't have any of that today. They get scheduled in by the teams. The teams have to schedule in those throughout the season. You can't just suddenly drop your driver in. Even when Fernando Alonso was ill with his back injury, and they put in their rookie, they had to. He still got. I don't think he got a super license point for that because it wasn't in the schedule. Drugovich got some experience though, didn't he? Again, well, Drugovich has gone over to race for Andretti, hasn't he? Great driver. Isn't it crazy that you can win F3 and F2 like in 2022 and not get a drive? You can win F2 like Drugovich and not get a seat in F1. It's such an unfair game because to get a seat in F1, part of it is bringing money. And if you don't bring enough money to a team, you don't get your seat. It's definitely a tough game. Not a fair business. I've talked about it before, but Lando Norris, his dad, for Lando's rookie contract at McLaren, which was a 3-year deal, Lando Norris's dad, who owns Hargreaves Lansdowne, which is a big investment firm, paid $40 million as an investment. So, us mere mortals without huge sums of money behind us, we just don't get that opportunity to do it unless you get through a driver. You know, that's why I do like the Mercedes driver program and the Red Bull driver program, because it does give an opportunity to quick drivers who perhaps don't have the money behind them, because if they're just quick, they'll get a drive. Because if you're the, you know, and what Mercedes and Toto Wolff does, if you come through their driver program where they've invested that many millions into you, they sign you to the Toto Wolff's management company for 5 years after that, which is why we've got this weird situation at Mercedes right now with Toto, Kimi and George, because Toto is not only their boss, he is both of their managers. So he's effectively negotiating for himself, with himself. It's a crazy situation. We shouldn't really be allowed. But that's why George Russell is saying he's going to change management, and it's sensible. Okay, Alonso, P1. See, I'm unsure whether, I mean, are Aston Martin going to be competitive here at Singapore? The lower downforce track, we might see a more competitive Aston Martin here than we've seen. Sorry, it's a higher downforce track, so we might see a more competitive Aston Martin here. Not great on the low downforce tracks, was it? I do love a street circuit though. And it's a nighttime race as well. I like that. Makes it a bit different. And when you see it coming through the marina, it is a cool track, this one. And I think the drivers do like it, but it does get hot here. Hot and humid. So Williams have just confirmed the reason why it's set on fire. It's a hardware problem with their rear brakes, which is why they had a fire on Alexander Albon's car when he couldn't get out of the pits in FP1. He's not even put any laps in. But that Williams, there's something about that Williams car. It just seems a little fragile, doesn't it? I mean, like, was it in Baku where literally the glass in the wing mirror just blew out? It's just like things just fall off this car. I don't know. It just feels a bit like it's gaffer taped together a little bit. So Norris fastest in the first sector and the second sector. Fastest overall, putting a 1:32.4. And we started off the session with people doing 1:35, so you can see the lap times are just tumbling now. Still 40 minutes to go. Oh, just watching Pierre Gasly go off the runoff there. I mean, I'm really rooting for Pierre Gasly. I think he's a very underrated driver, and I think the fact that he's got his contract extension to 2028 is a really good thing. I think he deserves his spot on the grid. But I think he's better than people really give him credit for, because what he's managed to do in that awful Alpine car this year, he scored 20 points. And when you look at Colapinto or Duan, no other driver scored any points for that team. And I think he's got a very mature approach to his racing now. So I like Pierre Gasly. And we did a show halfway through the season with an overperformance index about which drivers are overperforming in relation to where their expected results should be. And Pierre Gasly was the number 2 driver. Esteban Ocon was the number 1. Pierre Gasly, according to maths, was overperforming by some margin. He scored a 5.5. And 0 means they're performing as expected. He was number 2 in the overperformance index, and I think that data is accurate. So if Alpine, with the new power unit they get from Mercedes next year, and they can actually put together a decent package, and integrate that power unit in, we could see Gasly, you know, doing pretty well. I think it was the right move to secure him till 2028. I do. Oh. Yeah. I know. What do you think? Who do you think should get that second Alpine seat? You think Colapinto should get it? Okay. Hello, if you just joined us. This is your watch-along live stream for the Singapore Grand Prix free practice one. Come and get in the chat. Ask any questions. We've just been talking about Pierre Gasly and how I'll just say I think he's a very underrated driver, and I'm actually delighted for him that he got his contract extended at Alpine to 2028. And that's the thing. Like, the machinery makes such a difference, doesn't it, in F1? You can really, you know, you don't have to be the best driver to win a world championship if you've got the right car. It's a true story. And I'm hoping Alpine bring a competitive package next year. I think the power unit is going to make a big difference. Mercedes power unit, to me, is looking really good. Ferrari power unit, I'm very, very skeptical about it. The Red Bull power unit, very skeptical about it. The Audi power unit, that's the one to watch. I did a show on it last night talking about how Audi are probably winning the engine wars at the moment for 2026 because Wheatley basically let slip. He said that our engine program's going very well. We've had it on the dyno for months, and all they're doing now is working out about the testing reliability. And what that tells us is that engine's quick, horsepower's good, top end's good, it works, and now they're just trying to get reliability. And compare that to what the news that came out about from Ferrari last week when they lost their lead engineers, and they said they haven't even had the engine on a dyno or on a bench, and they don't even know what the performance of that is. Hey, thanks for joining the chat. Just talking about the power units for 2026. Saying how the one to watch, the Audi power unit, the news coming out from Audi is good. It's been on the bench for months. I don't think that's the case at Ferrari because now they lost their two lead engineers, which have gone over to Audi. Those lead engineers, Schmidt and Zimmerman, basically said, "Oh, we've not had the engine's not been on the bench." So God knows what's going on with that Ferrari power unit. Now Mercedes will be methodical, meticulous, and in front of the game. Their power unit's already going to. They'll be in a similar. But they'll approach it like the way that German engineers approach things, and that's the right way. So the Mercedes engine will be good. Okay. Hey, where's Tsunoda going? As he's not at Red Bull next year, is he? I don't think he got a contract for 2026. Well, it gets even more interesting. The Red Bull Racing Bull dynamic is crazy. So at the moment, if you'd have asked me this 3 months ago, Tsunoda 100% lost his drive at Red Bull and lost his drive at Racing Bulls, okay? Out of the door. Needs to find a new drive. There's been developments. Because 3 months ago, it was going to be Verstappen and Hadjar in the Red Bull. Arvid Lindblad, who was killing it in F2, was going to get promoted. And then it was going to be Liam Lawson. That was your lineup. And that was in a leaked document. But it's all changed, baby. So what happens is, so then Horner goes. McKees comes in. McKees then starts giving Yuki Tsunoda a fairer car to Max Verstappen. He starts giving him the same upgrades. Yuki Tsunoda's performance have improved. No doubt about it. Good enough to keep his seat? No. But what did he say to Yuki? He said, look, you've still got an opportunity to drive for Racing Bulls next year. And this was new. So Yuki's now getting the carrot dangled of the next 7 races. If it's yours, you could win that seat. So the latest news then became, okay, Yuki's probably not going to be in a Red Bull, but he could be in a Racing Bulls next year, which means Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda are fighting it out for the Racing Bull seat alongside Arvid Lindblad. So that was the new situation. And it has changed again, because now, this week, it's been confirmed that Red Bull and Shalom Yavudra, excuse my pronunciation, the Thai owner of Red Bull, not just the racing team, the drinks company, the majority shareholder of Red Bull itself, multiple billionaire, wants a Thai driver in the Red Bull. Alexander Albon has been doing brilliantly this season in the Williams. He scored 70 points. Excellent performance. He's the best of the rest. The only people in front of him in the driver standings are the top teams, Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren, right? And Red Bull, Max. Excellent performance from Albon. And Helmut Marko admitted yesterday that, yeah, he's in conversations with Albon. And he also apologised and said when Albon was at Red Bull in 2020, he didn't support him enough. And Helmut Marko also said the driver lineup is going to be his decision, not Laurent Mekies and not Alan Permain's. So now we know who's controlling Red Bull Racing and the Racing Bulls. So what does this mean for Yuki, which was the original question? So now we've got a situation where now we know Helmut Marko is pulling the strings. He likes Arvid Lindblad, but Arvid Lindblad in F2, his performances have dropped off. So what's the most likely result? You've got 2 scenarios. It's either going to be Verstappen and Hadjar in the Red Bull, Yuki and Lawson retaining the seats in the Racing Bulls for a season, whilst Arvid Lindblad stays in F2 for another year. Or if they pull off this huge coup and they get Albon over out of his contract from Williams into the Red Bull, well, then you've got Hadjar staying at Racing Bulls and you're back to Yuki and Liam Lawson fighting it out for that final Racing Bulls seat but to the end of the season. So at the moment, it's going to cost, let's say it's 100 million to buy Albon out of his Williams contract. It'll be a lot. It might not be 100 million, it might be 50 million, whatever it is. Well, Yavudri, I can't say his name properly, the Thai guy who owns Red Bull, can afford that lunch money. He can pay that. He can pay him out of his contract. Shalem could buy him out. And it's an option. And Albon's also said that the only team he'd go to, if he had to leave Williams, would be Red Bull. So it's a very fascinating time within the Red Bull racing camp. It really is crazy. But the one thing that everybody should know is all of the driver decisions at Red Bull Racing and Racing Bulls come down to one man. And it isn't the team principals. It's one man, and it's Helmut Marko, the Dark Lord himself. Here he is. This is your guy making all the decisions. And this is the guy who orchestrated Horner's exit. Because remember, Christian Horner was a director of Red Bull Racing, and he got to call the shots. When he left, Helmut Marko became the sole director of Red Bull Racing. And Laurent Mekies, who's come in as team principal, has not got a directorship there. He has not got the same control. The only person that really, really benefited from Horner's exit is him, is Helmut Marko. And that's what's happened. It's changed things. But yeah, so it's a complicated question with it. Where's Yuki going to be? Here's Yuki's other option. Yuki does have, and if that all falls apart and he loses his Red Bull seat and his Racing Bull seat, well, he does have another option. Aston Martin are looking at Yuki Tsunoda as their reserve driver. Would Yuki take that if he lost a main driver spot and no team wanted him to be a main driver? Would he take that reserve driver spot at Aston Martin? Well, he might. He might. And the reason why that third driver spot at Aston Martin has become an option for Yuki is, guess what? It's because Honda are supplying Aston Martin with engines, and Honda are also a personal sponsor of Yuki Tsunoda. So that's why. Yeah, well, I agree. Albon is a good driver. Albon is a good driver. And also, when you say about Hadjar and the Red Bull, I think if they don't get Albon, then yeah, 100% Albon. So Hadjar is nailed on for that Red Bull seat. If Albon doesn't join. Yeah, I agree. We're all Aston Martin. Stroll is crap, only there because of his dad. Well, we were talking about Lance Stroll last night on the live at 7:30, and this is my honest opinion. Lance Stroll is pretty quick over one lap. You know, he won F2. You know, he's pretty quick over one lap. The problem with Lance Stroll is over a Grand Prix weekend and over a 60-70 lap race, Lance Stroll doesn't seem to have the racecraft to manage the car, to manage himself, to make the right decisions over a full Grand Prix. But the one thing I'd say about Lance Stroll is he's quick over a lap. He can be quick over a lap. And when you look at how he's compared over one lap with Fernando Alonso, he's been absolutely comparable. Only maybe a tenth between them. So, yeah, I know. Nobody likes Lance Stroll. Everyone goes Lance Stroll bashing. He's unpredictable. Sometimes crashes into people. Sometimes amazing. Yeah, that's true. That's Lance Stroll. He's got it in his locker. This is the thing about Lance Stroll. I know everyone dislikes him because of the opportunities that he's got because of his dad. But he did win F2. He was an F2 champion. Regardless of who his dad is. But he's... you're right. It's the unpredictability. It's the maturity he doesn't seem to have to manage an entire Grand Prix. He'll make a stupid choice. You'll see him do 25 laps. We're going, God, this guy's good. And then he'll just make a crazy decision. A gap that's not there. Put someone in the wall. Yes, Wirral. Yeah, I'm a massive Lewis fan myself. I'm from the Northwest. Yeah, I'm from the Northwest as well. South Manchester. Yeah. You see, I respect Lewis Hamilton a lot. You know, you can't take away 7 world championships. It's that's no mean feat, regardless of any car you're driving. And I would quite like the fairy tale of him winning his 8th world championship in a Ferrari. I'd like that because, you know, who doesn't love a Ferrari Formula One car? Like, you know, the crimson red, right? If Ferrari is we all love Ferraris, but it's the reality of what's going on in that Ferrari team right now is that it's bad. It's not just the car's bad. There are fractions within that team. Gunther Steiner was on the F1 podcast and he said, and you got to remember Gunther Steiner, who was the old team principal over at Haas, he has a great relationship with Ferrari. Ferrari were supplying them with engines, and he's got a great relationship with Fred Vasseur, and he let slip that Ferrari is torn in two at the moment. A lot of people at Ferrari feel that letting Carlos Sainz go was the wrong thing to do, and recruiting Lewis Hamilton was the wrong thing to do. Yet the management don't want to say that, but within the team, there's fractions. You got Charles Leclerc, his management going out talking to other top teams saying, hey, tentatively, would you be interested in Leclerc if he was available? Because Leclerc's unhappy. You've got the incident at Baku where Lewis Hamilton was told to give P8 back to Charles Leclerc, and he didn't do it. You know, and Charles Leclerc sarcastically said at the end of the race on the team radio, well, let him enjoy that P8 finish. I mean, obviously it's P8 and P9, but Leclerc did let Hamilton through because Hamilton was on the faster tyre to go and attack Lando Norris in Baku, and he couldn't He couldn't make it work. He couldn't attack Lando Norris. They're in a DRS train. And then he was told to give the place back to Leclerc, and he didn't. So that's contentious. You've got Ferrari's lead engine designers and engineers leaving Ferrari before their engines even hit the grid in 26 to go and join Audi, which tells me that that engine doesn't look good. They publicly said the engine hadn't even been on the bench. So we don't know how good Ferrari's power unit's going to be in 26. Binotto's already left Ferrari for Audi, who was their chief technical officer from 2019. I just don't know what Ferrari's package is going to be in 26. I just don't believe it's going to be competitive. I don't think the car's going to be good. I don't think their engine's going to be good. Not in Melbourne, anyway. I think actually Audi's engine's going to be really good. I think Honda's engine's going to be really good. And I think Mercedes' engine's going to be really good. I think Red Bull and Ferrari are going to be the worst power units. That's what I think from the noises that are coming out. So Wirral says his replacement Mercedes done okay. Antonelli's just signed new contract, hasn't he? I saw a news. Well, Antonelli's contract is literally just an extension of his current deal. Toto Wolff came out and said in the press, we did a breaking news on it. He came out and said to Sky Italia that the rumours of Antonelli being dropped to a midfield team or loaned to a midfield team, including Williams and Alpine, are completely untrue. And why were those teams mentioned? It's because Mercedes are supplying engines for Alpine and Williams. So completely untrue. Antonelli will be a driver for Mercedes next year. 100%. And it's just an extension to his deal. There's not going to be a bells and whistles announcement. It's just that's what's happening. And of course he can say that because he's Kimi Antonelli's manager and also boss. But the Mercedes contract for George Russell is a little bit more complicated. That hasn't been 100% agreed yet. Definitely not. So yeah, and Antonelli, he started off the season well, didn't he? Came into that Mercedes team with thinking, gosh, this guy's looking great. You know, the car wasn't the best, but when George Russell won in Canada, Antonelli finished in P3, his first podium. Brilliant. And then the 6 races, the 3 either side of like the break, the halftime, the mid-season break, were not good, and he just dropped off. And then we even had George Russell saying his performances have been underwhelming. And then what does he do? Antonelli responds in Baku with a solid drive. You know, George Russell, brilliant, put the car P2, and Kimi Antonelli finished P4. And that was a decent performance for Kimi Antonelli. So we know it's in his locker. We know he's quick. It's his rookie season. And he's made some rookie mistakes that you'd expect any rookie to make. People have been talking about maybe the pressure's too much to be in a top team this early. And would he have benefited from slotting into a midfield team? And actually, I do believe rookie drivers benefit from going into a midfield lower tier team for a season or two. It worked with George Russell. He was at Williams and he performed exceptionally well. He performed better than the car. And so by the time he became Lewis Hamilton's number 2 in Mercedes, he was ready. I think we're seeing it at Haas. Oliver Behrman, his debut was in a Ferrari and he was awesome, wasn't he? Then he gets a drive in the Haas, which, as we know, is a car built from the spares bin from Ferrari. It's 80% Ferrari parts. The cheapest team on the grid. And when I say the cheapest team, it's got the lowest budget to operate than any other team on the grid. Because they're not developing suspension parts. They're not developing gearboxes. They're not developing engines. They're just putting a chassis, really, an aero around those parts on the grid. The cheapest team on the grid to run and operate. And Oliver Behrman has shown some solid performances, and it's the right team for him. Why is it a good place for him to be? Because should Lewis leave in 27, or even, dare I say it, Leclerc leave, Oliver Behrman is their driver to slot into that Ferrari. One of their drivers for those 2 seats. And Behrman's benefiting from being in that team. And the best thing, like if we look at Gabriel Bortoleto, you know, he's in a Sauber, and we have seen him be quick in a Sauber, which now Sauber becomes an Audi works team next season. I tell you right now, Bortoleto's the driver to watch out of these rookies next season, because Audi, they've come to play. You know, they're not here to make up the numbers. And their track record in motorsport, from the Dakar Rally to, you know, to the Rally Series to, you know, Le Mans, like, Audi have come to play. The GT cars, they've come to play. They're not here to make up the numbers. It's a works Audi team. So Will says, yeah, Behrman has not done good this season, but the car is awful. You see, this is what I'm saying. How do we judge how well a driver's done? Has he done well comparatively to where we expect that car to be? I'd say, yeah. He has made a shitload of rookie mistakes, though. He's managed to rack up 10 penalty points on his super license, which is the most of anyone on the grid right now. So this is the problem with Oliver Behrman. He's one more penalty situation, a yellow flag situation, a crash in the pit lane, or causing an accident, from getting a ban. And we've seen Magnussen have a Grand Prix. What happens is when you get to 12 penalty points on your super license within a 12-month period, you get a 1 race ban. And truthfully, that's Oliver Behrman's risk right now. He has racked up 10 penalty points on his super license. It's crazy. I completely agree, Will. Rookie of the Year, Hadjar. Yes, agreed. Rookie of the Year for me is Hadjar. I just hope if they promote into the Red Bull car for 26, it doesn't ruin his development, because that seems to what happened. You get Liam Lawson was promising. They put him in a Red Bull. It could have ruined his career. Did a couple of races, drop him. Imagine having to come back from that as a driver. You get this, what you think is this promotion. You're in a car that is only there to support Max Verstappen from a setup point of view. You're not even running the same car. You've not got the same bits on the car. You're literally a test driver for Max Verstappen in that. Whereas in a Racing Bulls, all the team are there to help you be as fast as you can be to score points. He gets promoted to the Red Bull team, and all he is doing there is becoming a test driver for Max Verstappen. It was a difficult situation, and Horner put all his eggs in the Verstappen basket. Now we've got Laurent Mekies, though, running that Red Bull team. He's not doing that. The first thing he did when Yuki was promoted was go, hang on a minute. Max has got these suspension parts, these aero parts, these upgrades, and Yuki hasn't. Let's get them on the car. Let's see what we're actually dealing with here. And that's the best thing that I think Mekies has done. He's balanced out the fairness within that Red Bull team and those cars. So that's the situation. So if we see Hadjar getting promoted, I think he's going to get a comparable car. Yeah, Max got 10 or 11 points on his super license. Yeah, he did. He racked up a load. The only thing with Max is that because they're only on the license for 12 months, you have you get your date when you know those points are going to be removed. And I think he's had, I think 4 points removed off his license, where Behrman has still got 10 live super license points on his license right now. So we could see if he messes up this weekend, we could see him getting banned. We could see him getting a one race ban. That is definitely Behrman's risk. But like I say, this is just FP1. This just gives an early indication of how the cars are looking. FP2, I think, will get some hot laps. Because you remember, Red Bull have brought a new front wing, which provides more downforce, which again is interesting in itself. Red Bull are the only team really bringing upgrades to their 25 car. Ferrari aren't. Mercedes aren't. They've basically said, Aston Martin has said the same thing. There are no more upgrades coming. All attention is on the 2026 car. So I'm just going to have a quick look what's going on track. So Piastri having a moan about Ferrari. I think having a moan about Leclerc. Oh no, Lewis. He's having a moan about Lewis in the Ferrari. Yeah, I agree, Wirral. The Singapore track looks different in the dark when it's a nighttime race. Oh right, so this session's is a daytime session. You're right, it doesn't look as cool as when they're racing in the dark. I do like it. I love a street circuit, and I do love this street circuit. I think it's got a good balance. Leclerc, just to give you a quick update, there's 13 minutes left of FP1. I'll give you a quick rundown as you're not watching. So right now, Leclerc's fastest with a 1:31.2. Verstappen is just over a tenth behind Leclerc. Then we've got Lando Norris. Then we've got Hadjar P4, Sainz P5, Hamilton P6, Alonso P8. Oh, it's changed. Piastri's just gone P3. So Alonso P8, Russell P9, Hulkenberg P10, Yuki Tsunoda P11, Antonelli P12, Lawson P13, Behrman P14, Ocon P15, Stroll P17, Colapinto P18, Bortoletto P19, and Albon with his Williams, which is set on fire in FP1, is yet to set a time. So that's your rundown. Yeah, so we've got FP2 coming a little bit later, a couple of hours' time. We'll see some more hot laps at that point, and we'll really start to get an indication of which cars are looking quick. Although in Baku we saw Hamilton being the fastest driver in FP2, and it didn't necessarily translate for the Ferraris in qualifying, did it? We saw Leclerc put it in the wall. We saw Hamilton out in Q2. But FP2 is a good indicator who's quick. And at the moment, Leclerc, fastest time for FP1. And Verstappen, P2. Yeah, Alonso putting a quick time. He's gone P1. I did say this might be a good track for Aston Martin. Because it's a higher downforce track, and the Aston Martins do perform better with higher downforce. Whereas we've seen, obviously, Red Bull's performing great on the lower downforce tracks. McLaren's balanced everywhere. Yeah, McLaren's will be top 5. Piastri will be challenging. My prediction for this race, though, is I think Verstappen's going to get a hat trick. I think he's going for F1. I love the F1 games. One of the things we want to do, actually, we're on this channel. I want to get a setup where we can do some sort of maybe some live streams with F1 2025. So Will says, so you like to play the F1 games? Yeah, they're addictive, aren't they? And the Singapore track on F1's flowing, isn't it? Quite a fast track, couple of straights. Yeah, it's kind of a medium track, isn't it? Medium downforce track, great balance. I do love the F1 games, actually. I've not played for a while. I've not really got a setup. But as this channel grows, 100%, we'll do some live F1 streams. Do you know what would be good, actually? As the channel grows, and if you do like to play the F1 games, we could probably set up a Grand Prix, a race where we're all racing each other, where we got, that would be quite cool. Set up a private race with any of the subscribers who play. That'd be pretty fun, and we'll stream it. That'd be quite fun. Yeah, some cool developments that. I'd like to do that. I'm not sure how competitive I'd be. You go for, yeah, Max Piastri Orlando on pole. I agree. I'm gonna nail my hat to the wall. I think we're gonna get Max Verstappen pole position, and I think it's gonna be Piastri P2, Lando P3. Although Lando is great in qualifying, he's good over one lap, isn't he? Lando is good over one lap. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, maybe it'd be a mix of those three. And you know what? I do a preview show for every Grand Prix. And the Singapore preview, I have two strands to that show where I have my driver of the day prediction and I have my dipstick of the day prediction. Who do I think is going to have an absolute mare on the actual Grand Prix? So I have a driver of the day prediction and a dipstick of the day prediction. My driver of the day prediction for the race was actually Alexander Albon. Although his car has been on fire in FP1, but I'm still sticking with it. Alexander Albon is going to be my driver of the day prediction. And my dipstick of the day prediction was Franco Colapinto. Maybe that's a bit obvious, but if you want to play along with me and you're watching this, tell me who your driver of the day prediction is going to be for the race and who your dipstick of the day, who's going to have an absolute mare in Singapore race, who's going to put it in the wall. Yeah, so I love it. So Wirral is nailing his hat to the mast. He's saying he's going with pole for Max, second for Lando, third for Piastri in qualifying. We're very similar. I just switch around Lando and Piastri. I think Piastri's going to be coming off that awful weekend in Baku where he made so many mistakes. You know, he jumped the start, anti-stall kicked in. He went from P9 to last on the grid and then puts it in the wall lap 1, turn 5. He's got to bring a solid performance. He's got to after that. And then Lando Norris just didn't show enough grit for me in Baku. He had this open goal where he could really score a lot of points against Piastri and really catch up in the Drivers' Championship. And he just didn't bring the fire, did he? He didn't bring a great lap in qualifying, even though he knew his teammate had already crashed the car. And then he didn't bring enough fight in the Grand Prix and allowed himself to finish, what was it, P7? Or P6? Where did he finish? P7. Yeah, just not good enough when you've got an open goal. Happy to see Alonso out there right now in P1 though for this FP1. 7 minutes left. Alonso's put the fastest lap out on track with a 1:31.1. Leclerc's currently P2, Verstappen P3, Hamilton P4, Piastri P5, Norris P6, Hadjar P7, Sainz P8. What I like about that is Sainz putting in comparative times to Hadjar, and that's really a good benchmark for Sainz. Tsunoda P9, Ocon P10, Russell P11, Hulkenberg P12, Gasly P13, Antonelli P14, Lawson down in P15, Behrman P16, Bortoletto P17, Stroll P18, Colapinto P19, and obviously Albon out with no time because his Williams set on fire at the beginning of FP1. So we're not going to see that Williams out until FP2 in a couple of hours' time. But Alonso, that's a good lap from Alonso. Showing us that maybe the Aston Martins can be competitive. Oh, yeah, I agree. Sainz's Grand Prix in Baku, fantastic. Qualified P2, which was just incredible. And then to hold his position, well, to finish P3 was just a great result for Williams, a great result for Carlos Sainz. After having really not a good season. You know, there's a lot of pressure. Hey, motorsport fan, hey, this is your home track. Is it? Brilliant. Joining us for FP1. You're a bit late. There's only 5 minutes late, motorsport fan. But yeah, nice to have you with us. I will be back in a couple of hours for FP2, so make sure you join us then. Yeah, I love Singapore. I love the fact it's a nighttime race. I love the fact that it's a street circuit. I like the fact that it's a medium sort of downforce track where we're going to see, well, we can already see Aston Martin looking a lot better. In FP1 for Alonso to go P1, that's a good thing for Aston Martin. They put a marker down saying, hey, we've come to play at this Grand Prix. We could get into Q3. I think you might see Aston Martin in Q3, which means they've got a chance of being a good point scoring situation for Alonso. So yeah, I think we're going to see Aston Martin doing pretty well. It's a good early indicator. 4 minutes left. Are we going to see any hot laps? I'm looking at the timers. I can't see any purple sectors. So they're probably just going to round this out, to be honest. Last 4 minutes. I'm because the most, like, Hamilton's gone to the pits, Piastri's gone to the pits, Tsunoda's hitting the pits. Hadjar's on a lap. I don't think he's going to do a better lap than Alonso. I think your finishing order is going to be Alonso quickest in FP1, which I like to see. So comparatively, where's Stroll? Oh, he's not putting a quick lap. Stroll down P18. So yeah, I'm happy for Alonso because, you know, oldest man on the grid, doing it for the 40s, 44. I'm really excited to see the Aston Martin in 26, that Adrian Newey designed car. Could we see a situation where Alonso wins a world championship, his third world championship, in an Adrian Newey designed Aston Martin, powered by the Honda power unit, and see him win his third world championship in the twilight year of his career? Because I don't think we're going to see Alonso back on the grid in 27. I just don't. I believe it'll be Alonso's last season in F1. And what a way to go out if he could win it in an Aston Martin. That Adrian Newey Aston Martin is going to be good. There's no doubt about it. He owns the team. He's an owner of the team. This is going to be his best work. You know, can he get his 13th or 14th Constructors title in his career? He's going to want to do it in the Aston. So yeah, I love the romance of that story. And it's possible. It is possible. Anything's possible. But the romance of that particular story, Fernando Alonso, Adrian Newey, in an Adrian Newey car, major rule regulation changes, which is the best opportunity for Aston Martin to be at the front of the grid, and he wins a world championship. I'd love that to happen. And the added part of that story is you've got a real chance of Christian Horner buying into that team and putting the band back together. I did a big show on it last night where you've got Horner, Newey and Cowell all back together in the Aston Martin team for 2026. Lawrence Stroll is one of the only guys actively trying to sell shares in the team to raise money to take the team forward. And what we know about Christian Horner's situation right now is it's not just his 100 million he's getting from Red Bull. That's not the money that we're talking about. He is backed now by huge American investment funds like BlackRock and Vanguard. And he has got so much money backing him that really the opportunity at Aston Martin looks very, very real. And also the relationship with Newey is good again. They went to the Oasis concert together. They've been hanging out. Do you think they've not been talking about getting their band back together? The signs are there, people. We're joining up dots. So yeah, the Aston Martin team's looking fascinating for 2026. Very exciting stuff. So in the last minute now of FP1, your big news is Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, the quickest car on the grid, which is I'm here for it. I like to see it. Let's see if they can bring a quick car in FP2. But if they do, it's an indicator that Aston Martin are looking definitely to get into Q3, get a good qualifying performance in, and have a point scoring weekend. Maybe Adrian Newey's done some little tweaks to that car. It's possible. Yeah, so that is the end of FP1. Thank you to Wirral Sport. Thank you to Motorsport Fan. And thank you to everyone else who's been watching. I will be back for FP2. It's 2 o'clock GMT. Join me. We'll watch it together. Let's see if the Aston Martin can still be quick. Fernando Alonso, fastest man on the track in FP1. Let's see how they fare in FP2. And also, Alexander Albon's Williams setting on fire. Let's see if he gets that car back out for FP2. I'll join you all at 2 o'clock GMT. I'll see you then. Ta-ta.